All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're live. Okay, that's a bit loud. Okay, we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stream of today. I better just introduce this because I don't think I have a lot of time on my hands. Maybe we're going to be having a 2-hour live stream. It could be 30 minutes, depending on how well we focus up on how we're going to portray this. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this stream. Today we're going to be dealing with MPESA's Daraja API. And this API is the most misunderstood API in the country today. And in essence of integrating payments and everything else, people are soft developers nowadays. Everyone is expecting to do packages and all those different things without having to do the real work and understand how these APIs work. So I'm doing this video, or rather doing this live stream, with an aim of trying as much as I can to debunk what this API is on about, and just getting into the full-on in-depth understanding. And the best way to do that is by deploying it inside our Laravel applications. But this applies to like literally every other developer as well, because every framework is almost similar, and you can definitely use this in your React applications, your Next.js applications, or Express applications if you're into JavaScript. You could use this in your Python as well. If you have a full understanding of how to make HTTP requests, then this application development procedures are definitely going to apply to you as well. It's not going to just be for the Laravel developers. It's not going to be just for the PHP developers. This is going to be a full-on quick dive into what the API is on about. So yeah, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin. And let's see what we have. Let's see what we have here. Right. So on my browser already, we've logged into or rather, we've opened the Daraja 2.0 API by Safaricom, which is in developer.safaricom.co.ke. So, you can definitely get it there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to sign up from the very beginning. And to be able to sign up, I'm just going to go to sign up. And I'm going to use new, details, right? So I'm just going to come in here and type my name, Steve, the number, email address. I'm going to use my company's email address. And username is, I'm just going to use my gamer tag. Okay, it's already taken, so I'm just going to come and use 54. I don't know if that one is taken. 7285572 and sign up. So the sign up was successful and the credentials have been indeed sent. So I'm just going to come in and look at my email to see if there's any other step that I need to do. So info@vapor.co.ke, and the password as I created. What? Oh no, I got into the left email. So I'm waiting for an email to be sent. I think it should have been having like the password or something. Is that, or did I create the password from it? No, I did not. I didn't create the password. Yeah, there we go. So it sent me the password. So I can email address that I was using, then the password. And then we come in login. I think now it tells us to change the password. So one-time password, we put in the password that we copied. And then we have a new password. And then we'll confirm the password. And now we go in. So now once we've logged in, of course I want to save this. We have a area for our apps, and the first thing that we're going to do is create a new application. What I'm going to do here is okay, which product APIs should be mapped in this application? So I'm just going to mark everything. So that's Lipan MPESA, MPESA Sandbox, Pretune Sandbox, Bill Manager, B2B Express, and MPESA Ratiba. This is a new API that has come to light, so be ready for that. And then, of course, I'm just going to name the app Vapor Technologies. Then let's create the application. And we have it successfully made, so I think we're good to go. So we already have our credentials over here. That's our consumer key and consumer secret. And those are things that we're going to be using in our Laravel application. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in here, open sites, and then we start by crafting our Laravel application. So we're just going to come in here and do new Laravel projects. And normally I enjoy using Jetstream, Livewire, and I think I'm just going to call it MPESA or MPESA API, something like that. Yeah, I think I'll just call it like that. And then, of course, these other things are just going to be created afterwards. So we're just going to let this run. And in the meantime, we're just going to explore all the APIs that we're going to be looking at. So, of course, the main API that we're definitely going to have for all these APIs to work is this authorization API. So when we're looking at the authorization API, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about generating a token that will be used to make a secure requests to all these other different APIs. So if you look at how it's structured, we already have a URL right here. And it's a GET request, of course. It looks like they're giving us a GET request. So once we do that, then our response if we put inside our authorization header, and our authorization header normally, if we come in here and click on this and we look at what our consumer key and our consumer secret is, our basic authorization is an encode of, and if you can definitely see this, over here it states that actually you can't see this, so let me just minimize this. Let me remove my face cam. So if you can see over here, we have base 64 encode, then there's a consumer key and a consumer secret. So you definitely have to have that. Granted, that's the basic authorization, and that's how we're going to be putting it inside our authorization headers as a basic authentication. Then once we pass that in, and then we just do a GET request, of course now our response body will come in as follows. So with the access token, and this is not basic authentication, this now is a bearer token. So that's what we're going to be using inside all of our other APIs. So now when we come to dynamic QR, of course, now this is the request body where we put in the merchant name, the reference number, the amount, and then all these different things, right? and they're all defined. Go ahead and check it out, and then this is the QR code itself, and all it just needs to be done for is to decode in base 64 as well. Yeah, and then it's an image as well, so it needs to be base 64 decoded into an image, which is fine. So now we'll get rid of this. We'll get out of here. Let's go back to looking at MPESA Express, which is now the SDK push requests. So if we come in here and just click on simulate, that's the first part, where we have to process the requests, and then it sends a request to our phone. In order for us to test that, I'm just going to come in and put my phone number. And then, of course, I just simulate the request. And I'm just going to go back to all right, so I'm just going to show you how it does it on my phone. So I've already put my phone number here as the party B. Sorry, as the party, it does the phone number over here. So party A is the phone number sending money. Party B is the organization that receives the funds, and then the phone number is the mobile number to receive the SDK pin prompt. So I've already set up my phone number. What I'm just going to do here is I'm simulating the request, and once I click on simulate request, it comes up onto my phone like so, right? Don't know if it can focus. But yeah, you get the gist. You definitely do get the gist. So yeah, that's essentially what goes down, and I can hit cancel, and it does a callback URL send to the URL that has been passed in within this function. So this callback URL. We're going to be looking at that a little bit more later. Then there's the C2B, which I'm trying to figure out more use cases for the C2B situation, but it's a bit rare. The B2C is the one that's highly common because, I mean, we do indeed pay salaries as businesses. We do all these different things. Transaction status, we're also going to have a look at that. We're actually going to look at each and every single one of these APIs, even account balance, reversals, tax remittance, all these different things. But the only one thing that I can say is a true game changer for those guys who are looking to implement the MPESA API is this one right here, the MPESA Ratiba. And of course, Ratiba, for those guys who don't understand Swahili, Ratiba means timetable. So it's essentially one that enables us to put recurring payments. Okay, so as you can see, the standing order APIs enabled teams to integrate with the standing order solution. All right, you place a standing order by initiating a request to create a standing order on the customer profile. This API is intended for businesses who wish to integrate with standing orders for the automation of recurring revenue collection. All right, so this is essentially really, really good for those guys who want to implement, subscription services using M-Pesa and all. So I think this is very crucial to all of those guys who want to do such different stuff. Okay, now I think this is the most important API at the very end, this one, M-Pesa Ratiba. But once we implement M-Pesa Express, I think you'll be able to understand and get the gist of how these APIs work. So that's essentially what we're going to be doing. So I'm sure this has already finished. So as you can see, now we can just start by opening it on VS Code. And we're just going to go straight in and develop the M-Pesa payment service by coming into our terminal. Of course, our terminal default profile. I need to change my default profile. All these things are popping up. And it's git bash. Okay, so we'll delete this, open the terminal again. Let's see if PHP Artisan works here. It looks like it's misbehaving as well. So I'm just going to close this again, open this in the terminal. Okay, again, I need to set this as the default profile. This is git bash. Damn. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to come in here and open this inside our path. So I'm just to click to open in Explorer, and then I'm going to right click and then open in Terminal. Let's see how it opens. Okay, does PA work? Yes, it does. Code dot, it should work. And my terminal inside here should also work at the same time. PA. Yeah, okay, fine. We're good to go. So what I'm going to do here is do PHP Artisan, so PA make class. And we're going to come in here and do services, stroke MPESA service. And this is where we're going to create all our classes or all our functions for the inner workings of our API. So this is what we're to do. Now we've created that service. We'll start by opening it up. This is an app services MPESA PHP. And in our construct function, of course, we're going to start by putting a public base URL. And this base URL is dependent on whether or not our .env reads about the MPESA env, so MPESA underscore env. And we want to do it as a sandbox. All right, so it's either sandbox, so it's live. And sandbox or production, actually. So if we look at our Daraja API, let's look at this first. We'll go to our authorization situation over here. All right, and when we have our link over here, sandbox safaricom.co.ke, okay? But when it's live, when we go live, okay, let's actually go back to the docs, and then we say going live, all right? So when you go to go live, the URL has to change at that particular point. Well, of course, we have this going live situation. I don't understand why it's not giving us the URL to change to. It should give us the URL to change to when it goes live, when it's like going live, so that we can be able to understand. Like when we change our environment, it just automatically updates the URL. But regardless, I think we're good to go with this one. So this is our get credentials situation. And I'm just going to come in here and paste it here so that we can have a look at what it is. So there's this first part over here. Okay. Then there's this part for OAuth v1 generate. So this is the new URL that's going to be together with this part over here. So I'm just going to put this inside here, and then I'm going to say this base URL is equal to this. And for us to successfully do that, this base URL is equal to. Now, I'm just going to wrap this inside our quotation marks. But I know for sure there's a situation where this sandbox becomes api.safaricom.co.ke. I know that is the URL for sure. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this, and I'm going to say if the env MPESA underscore env, I'm going to check if it is equal to production, and if it is, If it is, then this becomes the second URL. Of course, like if it's not, then that it's going to direct us to Sandbox. So the URL that I want to pass in here is similar to this one, except Sandbox just changes to API. So I'm just going to come in and put this API right there. So this is essentially the function. Let me just put it to so that it can be visible to everyone here. I can see we have 8 people live on stream. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Increase the VS Code font size. Man, this is too big. Is this like still not visible? Because I think also like maybe the screen resolution that you're using, man, it also deters a lot. But yeah, this is like so big. But I think we could still be able to use this. Okay, so yeah, so this base URL is equal to. Now we check if the MPESA.env and the MPESA env is production. If it is, then give us the live link. If not, then give us the sandbox link. And that's how we go about creating the base URL. So the first function that I always create is the authenticate function. So function and this function always comes in because we have our APIs over here. So there's going to be a function for each and every single one of these APIs. So the first one is the authorization function, right? What we're going to do here is I'm just going to copy this part over here. And then I'm going to say that our URL here is equal to this base URL. Then I'm going to concatenate it with this part over here. Now, because this doesn't end with the stroke at the end, I'm going to have to start this one with the stroke, like so. I'm just going to put my mic away just a bit. So this is our URL for the authentication, okay? And now, given that this is a GET request, then what we're going to do here is, and I don't like what people normally do. They just come in here, they do the implementation, right? And then they go ahead and think that it's all right to just come in here and copy all of this, of which this uses curls in PHP, which is fine, but at the end of the day, you need to remember these are also HTTP requests, so you treat it as such. HTTP requests and HTTP responses. What we're going to do here is we're also going to have our, as you can see, our authorization basic. And in order for us to have this authorization basic, we need our consumer key and our consumer secret. And for us to get our consumer key and consumer secret, of course, we're going to go to My Apps. And then we're going to copy the consumer key. So then we come in here into the env. We'll come in here and do MPESA. MPESA consumer key. And consumer secret. And of course, now once we have that, we'll just paste everything as is. So I have my consumer key over here, and then the consumer secret is going to be this one. And once we have that, I think we're good to go. So now once we come here, all right, we have our basic token. I'll just come in and just do basic token being equal to a base 64 encode, all right? So we have that function in our PHP, and that function enables us to do what it's requesting us to do over here, where it says that we need to do a base 64 encode of this. Let me just remove my camera so they can see. So it says base 64 encode, then we put consumer key and consumer secret together. But then there also has to be a colon in between, so that's that. So we'll come in here and just do a colon in between here. Then we join it with the env. Then we'll come in here and just do MPESA consumer key and MPESA consumer env MPESA consumer secret. Why is it not doing the thing? Yeah, there we go. And once we have that basic token, right, then what we do here is inside this, we have our headers, our authorization headers being passed in over here, right? So with that being done, we can actually test it out. So with that being done, we can be able to get the response in JSON format. So let's go ahead and do that. So the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to call a response, okay, being equal to our HTTP, and which is coming in from the facades of Illuminate support facades. And then we're going to do with basic auth, all right. Then we have our username and our password. Most of the time, that's how it usually works. So with basic auth is the function over here, and if I could be able to see with basic auth where it's coming from. With basic auth, which is over here. Man, I don't know. I think I'll find it later. Yeah, I'll find it later. But with the basic auth, you can pass in the consumer key and the consumer secret just like that. So the consumer key is the username. The consumer secret is the, the password. So essentially what we can just do here is, instead of just doing with basic auth, we can just do with token. And then with token, I have to pass in basic, and then I space it out, and then I concatenate it with the base64 encoded token, which is basic token, right? And then the request here that I'm going to do is the get request. And the get request, I'm passing in the URL. And there are no parameters that are required from this point. Then at this point, we just come in here and return response JSON, right? So that's how we go about this authenticate function. If I go ahead and create a route to just test it out, this is going to be inside my routes routes API, all right? And then I'm going to come in and just do routes, route, maybe say get, okay? And then I'm going to come in here and say get MPESA token. Then the function could be as follows, all right? So I'm just going to come in here and just bring this new service that I have saved. Yeah, I'm just going to come in here and say new MPESA service, and then I'm going to come in and say authenticate, and that's it. Maybe say return so that it's a void function. And I'll save this and try and test it out. I don't know if this is the right sequence to use, but we'll try it out anyway. So the MPESA test is the MPESA API.test, right? So MPESA API.test is the route that we're using. And now we'll go ahead and do API/MPESA token. And once we can see that we have invalid authentication passed, which is fair. So normally, because you see now the with token situation, we can just do with basic auth. And then we have the username. The username will be this.env, MPESA consumer key. We'll paste it there, and then we'll come in here and we'll use the password now, which is the consumer secret. So we can even comment this out, I think will be good. So let's see how it generates. So let's see that again. So you can see it gives us our access token at that particular point, and yeah, expires in 35.99. So that's like what, 600 seconds, which is 6 minutes? Yeah, about 6 minutes. So that's essentially the response body that has been given over here. And yeah, we move. So this works as is. We can just leave it like this. And you can see that everything is okay, everything is fine and dandy. So that's our first API that has worked. Okay, the authorization API. We could call it authenticate, we could call it authorize. I think I'll call it authorize for now. And we'll be using this authorize function throughout all of our other APIs. And the other APIs, I'm just going to come in here and call them out for them. So there's the dynamic QR, and then there's the MPESA Express, C2B, B2C, the transaction status, the account balance, the reversals, tax remittance. One that I want to implement right now is this one, the MPESA Express. So this one, I'll call it STK push. All right. There's one for STK push, and then there's another one for STK query. Okay. So inside the STK push, this is what's going to happen. So I'm just going to come in here and open the simulate function. And for us to be able to understand what's going on, this is the request body that is supposed to be passed in through our request. And this is a post request. So you can see we have our OAuth over here. This is for authorization. Now we come to our STK push, and our URL, which is supposed to be something similar, is going to take in this last part over here. MPESA STK push v1 process request. So I'm just going to come in here and paste it here. All right. And then when we move on to the next phase, which is now doing the request, we'll come in here and just do response, okay, is equal to, and then we'll say HTTP, and of course HTTP post. But then before we even say post, we're going to have to do this with token, okay? And given that the only token that's coming in from our authorize is coming in without our bearer token. And I don't think there's with bearer. No, there's no bearer. Yeah, there's no bearer. So with token is the way to go. And then because this response JSON over here, if we come in here and test this, the access token is coming in a JSON format. So if we come in here and just do JSON, and then we pass in access token, and then we come in here and say that bearer is being passed in with this, then let's see what happens. You can see an internal server error, which of course is coming in from here. It's also coming in from there. Okay, let's test it out. Let's test that out again. So undefined method authenticate, yes, of course. Authorize, we changed the name. Okay, so you can see the bearer token is being passed through as a text. So that's exactly what we actually want. And for that to actually work now at this point, we'll just pass it in with token, and then we'll come in and say this authorize. All right, and then interesting. We could have actually passed it in just like this. I think we'll have been okay with that. Yeah, I think we'll have been okay with this like that. And then because over here type is bearer, okay. And then we'll just do a post request, and then we'll pass in the URL. So this URL here that is being passed in like that. Then we have data. Given that it's a post request, we also have to have data that is being passed through in the body. So we come back here. And this is the body that we wanted to paste inside here. So I'm just going to paste it inside here like this, but then now I know for sure that for all of these, we need to change a little bit. So they need to be all associative arrays, like so. And then we'll need to change the curly brackets to the square brackets. And it formats itself like that. So now we also have to have a callback URL, and this callback URL is going to be like this. So I'm just going to come in here and just do route, and then we'll just do MPESA.callback. Okay, and this callback URL has to be defined within our API route over here. So we'll just come in here, we'll copy this, and we'll come in here and just do MPESA callback. I'll just call it SDK callback. And then the name over here, we'll call it SDK callback. Okay, so now once we do SDK callback for both of these, and then we'll come in here, we might not use this again, but this is essentially what we need. And with the SDK callback, given that this is supposed to be a post request, we have to pass in a request. And over here, we'll just come in here and just log the whole request inside the inside our log. So log info, and then I'll put in message SDK callback, and then I'll just do the context being a request all, and I'll keep it like that, I think. So this is just essentially to enable us to log the request inside our log file inside the storage. You can do whatever it is that you want with that one, but I'll show you how to test out what it is that you can do with that callback. So yeah, so we have this route over here, customer payable online, we have the business shortcode, we have the party B, all those different things, right? And then we also have the password over here. So this password, if we come into our SDK push or MPESA Express Simulate, we can see our password over here, the passkey is over here, okay, or the password is over here, which is a base 64 encode of the business shortcode, the passkey, and the timestamp. So we'll come in here and take that as a function over here, and we'll say that this is the password is equal to that. So we'll come in here and say base 64 encode, sorry, not decode. And then you can see the business shortcode is the one that needs to be passed in over here. So we'll come in here and just do an env MPESA shortcode, which is going to be a variable that's going to be passed inside our .env MPESA shortcode. And I'm just going to copy the one that we have over here so that we use that as our test. And then we have our passkey. So now our passkey is going to be the one that is default over here. All right, so the passkey by default is always given. Okay, so where's the passkey over here? No, passkey is not always given. I don't know. I don't think it's always given. I don't think it's always given. I think there's something that we needed to do with securing stuff that needed to enable all these different things to be done. So there's password, and I wonder where the passkey is. And where the passkey is given from. Just going to go to docs for a second. Well, okay, let's say it's always given. Let's actually save it like that. Okay, this given that this is the passkey. Okay, so I'm just going to come in here and just do env MPESA shortcode, the passkey, and then the timestamp. So it's going to become now. Okay, so we're going to do now, and then we'll just do it in timestamp. But the timestamp is usually in a different format, actually, because if we look at how our timestamp is formatted inside our API over here, let's go to our MPESA Express simulate. Okay, so inside our simulate function over here, we can see timestamp is the year, then the month, then the day, then the time. So it's HIS, all right? So you can see, essentially it's not going to come in here and be get timestamp like this. What I'm going to essentially do is carbon now. And then I'm going to do format YMD, so like this, so YMD HIS. And there's a high likelihood that this is usually in 24 hours. So if I do a capital H, it makes sense. Okay, so that's essentially this. So this is the timestamp. I'm just going to concatenate that. We have the MPESA shortcode, and then the MPESA shortcode and the MPESA pass key. And this pass key is what we're going to be passing inside here. So we have the MPESA shortcode. We have also the MPESA pass key. And this pass key, I think we copied it. It's this one. So we're just going to leave it like that. So we're just going to save that for now, the way it is. We have the MPESA shortcode, which is .env over here. So then that's also party B as well. Then we have the phone number, the amount, and all that stuff. So amount is usually it's supposed to actually be in in text format? I'm not sure. But we're going to just come in here and have it. So the password is going to be this password here. The timestamp is going to be this timestamp over here, carbon now format, like so. Then we have the transaction type, which will remain like that. So the only thing we're taking in is the phone number, which is supposed to be both of these. Then we have the amount, and then we also have the account reference and transaction description, of which from what I understand, they're supposed to be optional. So like account reference is alphanumeric. I don't think it's mandatory. I'm going to do it anyway. So inside our STK push function, we're going to come in and pass in a phone number. We're going to come and pass in our, so given that we have to have phone here and phone here as well. We're going to have our account reference, a transaction description, and so on and so forth. So I have account reference, right? Of which I'll just do, and I'll just set it as null for now, or n/a in text format, right? And then we'll just pass it in here for both of these. Then we'll have our amount, and this one will come in as amount. Yeah, and that's essentially how we deal with our STK push. So we have the phone number, the amount, and of course everything else just falls into place after that. So in order for us to test this, to see if it actually works, we need to actually expose this to the rest of the world. But before we do that, we have to also find a way to log our response. So we're just going to come in here and log our response in the exact same manner. Response JSON, and yeah, that's how we're going to go about this. So the response and the response that is going to come in and the result that's going to come in are two different things. All right. The result will be logged into our Laravel log, of course, and we'll find a way to go about how to go about that. So in order to test that URL, I'm just going to come in here and copy our result body. Okay. I'm going to come here and copy a result body, open Insomnia. And inside Insomnia, I'm just going to come in here and go to personal workspace, and I'm going to create a request collection. And I'm just going to call it MPESA test. We'll create this. And then I'm going to come and create a new HTTP request, which is a post request. And I'm going to paste that URL that we're dealing with. So this is HTTPS MPESA API .test/API/MPESA callback. And in order for us to carry on with this, we'll now need the body. And the body here is in JSON format. And we'll paste the body over here. So now when we click on send, it's supposed to go back to our URL and with that body, all right, and then log the info inside here. It's actually STK callback, not MPESA callback, so got that wrong for now. So we just log the info and then return a response. And then we'll say JSON, and we'll say successfully logged. And essentially what I wanted to display over here. So if I come in here and just do this, successfully logged. Now if I come back to our Laravel log, we can see our body over here. We can do body SDK callback. All this is our context right here, which works. It definitely does. I wish I could definitely like list it down like this, but that's how it's supposed to work. This is essentially where it's supposed to come from, or how it's supposed to come. Now, in order for us to get it in the real situation from the SDK push itself, let's actually work right now. What we're going to do here is we're going to perhaps we're going to do something here. We're going to actually do something here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create our route over here, our component first. We're going to come in and make Livewire, and then we're going to call it, MPESA test. So we've created that Livewire component, and what we want to do here inside the Livewire component is a function over here where we are going to create a form. All right. Essentially, this form is going to have the phone number, the reference, and the amount. So we're just going to have a public, and we'll have a phone, amount, and reference. And then we're just going to do a function called rules, where we return the rules themselves, which is that the phone is a required one. Then the rest are required except for the last one, which is nullable. So this one will be the amount, and then this one will be the ref. So we'll close that off, and then we'll come in here and just do a function here called make payment. Which is essentially when we click the submit button, we first of all validate. And once we validate, we're just going to wrap this in a try catch. Inside the catch over here, inside the catch here, great. Okay, so inside the catch over here, inside the try over here, we're going to run this command, of course, which is the new MPESA service. I'm going to wrap it inside that, and then we're going to come in here and just do SDK push, and then we're going to pass in this phone. I'm going to pass in this amount, and then we're going to pass in this ref. And then in the throwable situation, I just want to log it as well. So I'm just come in here and just do log info. Then the message will be error payment or payment error. And then in the context, we'll just do th get message. That's how I would do it for now. I don't know. Get code, get file, get line. I think get trace works. I think get trace works. I think that works just fine. So now when we come to the MPESA test over here, because it's gonna be using this app layout over here. What I wanted to use is the guest layout actually. So I think I'll just change it out, or instead I will use a different layout. So I'll just come in here and just do layout, and then I'll do layouts dot front. Inside this layouts dot front, I will pass in Bootstrap instead. So I'm just going to come in here and just do resources, views, layouts, and inside layouts I create a file over here, front.blade.php, and inside front.blade.php we do that, and yeah, I think we're good to go. We'll just come in here and I'll just do my navigation over here, and it's a Bootstrap 5 navigation default. Navbar expand MD, navbar, href, this will be home or something, I don't know. And all that good stuff. I think I'll just leave it like that. And then at the end of this nav, I'll just do an main.my5, and now I'll just put in my slot over here. All right, and then when we come back to our routes, I'll come and create my route over here. So I'll do routes get, and then we'll just call this, maybe say MPESA test, and then the function here, or the action here, will come in from our Livewire MPESA test. So I'll just come in here and just call MPESA test and import it from Livewire class, where the route is called name MPESA test, something like that. So now if I go into my browser and open this up, MPESA API test / MPESA test, we have liftoff here, all right? Although when we talk of our components right here, inside our config Livewire, actually we need to import that. So pa vendor publish, and I think it's number 25 config over here. So we'll import that, and then we'll come into our Livewire config and change this part over here, components layouts app to layouts app, like that. And one thing I've not saved here inside our MPESA test is this layout part over here. So I think that's what the problem is. And now we're good to go. The only thing is we need our Bootstrap CDN. So Bootstrap CDN. So you can see we have CSS and our JS to copy. And yeah, I think that's it. And in fact, we have our starter template over here, so I don't know. I think we could use this. Let's actually try and use that instead. We'll paste this here. Once we paste that there, we'll see that our stuff has changed. But now once we change that, I think we can just put our slot over here. And in order for us to test that now, I think we're good now. In order for us to test that, we can just put a H2 over here and say MPESA test, and it works, which is fair. And I think what we just need to do is inside our body, we just put a navbar. And we'll just leave it like that. So navbar LG, navbar light, BG, maybe says danger. I don't know. We'll just do random stuff here. And just leave it like this. And then inside our main, dot my5, all right, I'll put in a container and then put the slot inside there. So once we do that, we have our navbar up here, and then we have our MPESA.test over here. And we'll do a card header h5, and we'll say this is test SDK push. All right, so that's our first essence over there. And then we need our Livewire styles and scripts to be imported in here. So in order for us to do that, I think I'll just come in here and copy it from app. I'll copy it from here, Livewire styles, and Livewire scripts at the very bottom. So Livewire scripts at the very bottom, and Livewire styles. I'm just going to delete this actually. At the very top, under the title. Yeah, I'll save this. I'll bring in Vite as well, just for the loading, so that if I do nrd, which is npm run dev, right, so if I come in here and refresh this, I actually need to pass in some stuff. So I'm just going to come in and do some npm stuff over here. So npm install Sass. This is just some front-end stuff. You don't really need to do this, but I just need to get my stuff ready, how I normally develop my stuff, my Laravel applications. So I'll just come in here into resources, create Sass, create front.scss, and then inside our Vite over here, I'm going to pass in resources, Sass, and front.scss. I'll pass it in like that, and then I'll come in here and then pass it in also over here. So let's come in and copy this, paste it here. I forgot to paste. Okay. Sass, then SCSS, front.scss. And that's how we do that. Now when we refresh our Vite, I think everything will be good. I don't know why I'm doing this. So I think our Vite is good now. And once I come in here, I'll be able to see that it's being used. If I come in here and refresh stuff, like let's say I'll go to front and save, it refreshes here, which is okay. Now we're good to go. We think we have live loading, so I think we're good to go now. So I need to get rid of this H2. I think I'll also be able to get rid of this container that's in here. First of all, I'll need to wrap all of this inside this nav, inside a container. And yeah, leave it like that, so that it appears like this. This form, I don't want it. This search form, I don't want that. And then I could also, like take this whole div to the other side. So I can just do like maybe say margin start auto, something of the sort, and if it will do it. Oh, over here it's doing margin right instead of margin start. So yeah, I think that's also something else. It was using Bootstrap version, I think 4. This is using version 4 instead of version 5. But it's fine still. I think not many things have changed. Okay, so test SDK push. We have that card header there. Then we have to have our card body. And what our card body is, we'll have 3 form inputs. So yeah, the form inputs as follows. We'll have Bootstrap 5 form input. We'll have our our phone number. We'll have enter your phone number. And then this help text, I think we'll just use it for our error. Phone. And then we'll come in here and just paste this here. Then we'll do message inside here. Okay, and then inside our inputs, we'll just do wire model. And it's supposed to pass in the phone. And I think that's that. Of course, text muted turns to text danger. And that's how we're going to do that. What I want to do here is I want to implement our button early on. So btn.btn.btn secondary. And then we'll just say make payment. And then we'll have a wire click. Make payment, which is a function that is already declared inside our MPESA test over here. So if I come in here and just click on this, you can see a phone field is required. And this button needs to be underneath here. All right, so if I click on this, phone field is required. So now we need the phone. We have the amount, and over here, the type I will put here is, I'll put number, and then we'll say enter your amount, enter the amount. And over here, the error will be the amount. So now once we save that, we make the payment, amount field is required, phone field is required. So those are the errors that are there. So then we'll have over here reference, wire model ref, and then over here I'll put text area instead of, all that. And I'll close up the text area like this. And then I'll pass in the ref over here. And then enter your reference as the placeholder. Now the thing about these ones is that these two are required and this other one is not. So what I will do here is I'll do a span with class of text danger, and then I'll put a star over here. And I'll do the same for this other one, so that we have these stars showing that these ones are mandatory. So if I come in here and do that, and of course this one is ref. If I do this, now you can see the reference is not showing that it requires anything, but these other ones require something. Wow. Well, yeah, so now we'll enter the phone number 254-728-557-412, and amount, of course, now this one is sort of getting out of hand, sort of. Amount is 100 shillings, and then reference, I'm going to leave it blank. I'm going to make the payment. Let's see what response we get in the process. So it sent something here, and in the process, I'm sure it's also like, it's not sent a callback, but it's also sent like a log if there's an error. If there's no error whatsoever, then there's no log whatsoever. So I'm just going to come in here into storage, logs, Laravel log, and then we can check it out. And you can see a bit of an error here. Right? Lots of errors actually. But it's on the lines of maybe the request itself. Another thing I'd probably do instead of having this this MPESA test, doing it over here, is I'll probably do this dispatch done, and then I'll come in here and look for the parameters. Because we are catching the error, and then we'll say something went wrong. Something went horribly wrong. And then we'll do a th get message. Like that. Now, we'll do a similar thing at the end over here, and then we'll do a success. And then we'll say request successful. Or say payment request successful, and we'll leave it like that. So that's how we go about this. Great. So now in the process of having this, I'm going to bring in some few functions in terms of JavaScript over here at the front. And that's coming in from, say, some of my old applications. So I always enable this. I always use Sweet Alerts. And the beauty about Sweet Alerts is that it gives you notifications so easily, so seamlessly, and it's beautiful at the same time as well. I'm just going to look for them right now. So it's inside front. I'm just going to copy all of this and then paste it inside here. Yeah. So now, whenever we make that payment, so like let's say over here, let's say now instead of having this validate outside our try catch, if we put it inside here, then the errors are going to show up out here. You can see something went wrong. Phone field is required and one more. So if we put the phone field right here and the amount, maybe say 1, if we make the payment, you can see route MPESA callback not defined. I think it should be SDK callback. So that's the error that we're dealing with right now. So we need to go back to our MPESA service, which is over here. It's not MPESA callback, but it's SDK callback. To check that, it's inside API, and you can see SDK callback right there. So we'll just save it like that. We'll just keep it like that, and I think we're good to go now. Then we'll make the payment. Payment request successful. Now once that payment request successful, it's supposed to come to my phone, of which it hasn't. But one thing also that we need to also be very wary of is that, let's go back to our APIs, and if we look at our response body, it's supposed to come in with a response code of 0, right? inside our response. Okay. Now, in a situation where there's an error, that it's unsuccessful, not the results particularly, but the response code itself. There's 101, 1019, 2001. These ones are all for the results. We'll always get a response code over here. We'll always have to get a response code. So I'm just going to come in here and just check this out. So I'm just going to come in here and say response. And then I'll put this as an if. So I'll say if response, and then I'll pass in this part over here, response code, like this one here is equal to 0. Okay, and then you see now this 0 is that. Then pass in this dispatch payment request successful. Will it do that? I don't know. By entering the amount, I'll enter 1 and then I'll make the payment. You can see undefined array key response code. But our SDK is returning it in JSON. Actually, what I want to do here, let me just reverse all this. Let me see if I can return the response here. Let's see what happens here. Well, fair. I'm trying as much as I can to get this JSON response. Anyway, the payment was made successfully, and I think I've gotten enough requests on my phone to do an SDK push. So I think I'll just leave it like this, and yeah, I think I'll just leave it like this. So now, in the process of having this, all I'm just going to do here is herd share, so that we can be able to get a response from our side, from the main server. So if we need to do that, we need to expose our server to the web. And I'm going to open this here. Then I'm going to come into our .env and replace our app URL with this. All right. Then once that's done, I'm just going to come in here just to MPESA test to open it up. Okay, and then we'll start. Phone number. The amount is on shilling. Then we'll make that payment. So it says payment request successful, to mean that that request itself has gone through. But the callback, if the callback has definitely gone through, then we'll have to get it inside our logs inside here. And we've not got anything just yet. Essentially, what our logs are supposed to do is, if I come in here and replace this part here with this route and send this back, I'm still going to have to get this successfully logged. And if I go back to my application, you can definitely see our STK callback is there. So there's something wrong with our function that is inside our MPESA test, our MPESA service. There's something definitely wrong here. There's something definitely wrong here. So I don't know. I mean, how far have we gone so far? I think we need to take a short break to get some coffee in order for us to fully delve into this a little bit better. It's been 1 hour, 30 minutes, yes. So I think it's time. Let's take this break and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Okay. Looks like I've realized probably one little thing is that if I go back to my MPESA test over here, if I did this, the better. It should be coming up on my phone, but I don't understand why it's not coming up on my phone. I don't know. It's essentially also, it should even log onto this part over here. Doesn't seem to me like I've done anything wrong particularly. If I go back to my MPESA service, like the way I've linked this base URL to this is fine still. Other alternatives would be, I will take this, put it up like that, still produce the same results, right? Password is a base 64 encodation of the MPESA shortcode, which we have, the MPESA passkey, which we also have, and the timestamp, which is this carbon now that, right? Actually, let's actually do this. Let's say timestamp like that, and then we'll create that variable at the very top. So we'll come in here and just do timestamp being equal to that, and then wherever else we have a requirement of this timestamp is going to be used timestamp like so. But then also on top of that, we could even just leave this as now, right? And it will be fine. But there's nothing else that's really eating me over here, because maybe even if we remove this part over here for bearer and, you know, just leave it like that, I think things will be much better, right? I don't know. I'm looking at the Daraja MPESA Express Simulate situation, and I'm looking at things like these items are quite interesting actually. Now, in terms of the test, you know, the test party over here, Do we really need to use this one that's been provided, 174,379, or can we use something different? That's the new question. I don't know. Maybe when you open the Postman collection link, we'll be able to understand it further. Okay, I don't want to open it right now, but we'll open it a bit later. But anyway, the function that I've done and how I've done it actually suffices. So I don't think there's a lot more that needs to go into it. The request body, as you can see, you've seen how we've structured it. You've seen how we've structured the phone number. You've seen how we've structured all these different things. The only thing that we've probably not done is regex this phone number input. But aside from that, I mean, yeah, I think we're good to go. Okay, let's increase focus mode. Okay, so aside from the simulation, we also have the query. This is what we're going to do with the query. We have the request body, we have the link over here. What we would do, okay, is we'll come in here and just create another STK query over here, right? And the STK query, because of what the body is giving us, the request body is giving us the checkout request ID, and this checkout request ID is only going to be gotten from the STK push. That is one of the parameters that comes in from the STK push simulation. So if we come and look at what we have here as our results body or response body, you can see our checkout request ID is over here. This comes in as our response. We save this response into maybe say a database or someplace, and then we come on and do a WSS request that keeps on checking whether or not this checkout request ID, the results that are linked to it, which is over here as well, have produced a result that will be able to, give us the status of the payment, whether it's been rejected, accepted, and so on and so forth. So if we go back to our query API for the M-PESA Express, we have this request body. So this is what essentially we're going to be using. We'll come inside here inside our API over here. We'll create our body. And this body is, first of all, we'll have to create our URL being equal to the similar thing that we've done over here. But we've copied the URL. I think we've copied the URL, which is here. So we'll wrap this inside our curly braces, our quotation marks, and replace this part for sandbox with our base URL. And that's how we go about that. I've just got a notification that somebody has indeed subscribed. Why am I not even able to see that the names of the people that have subscribed? But I know it's popped up on my channel, but I've not even seen. Um, that's incredible to me. I think I have to also go check out the stream. Oh, yes, I've seen the name. Xcodes, welcome to the stream, man. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the subscription. Really much appreciated, man. Right, so yeah, let's move. Ah, yeah, there we go, the activity feed. Where did it never logged in? It never logged in. Like sometimes no, wrong login even. Wrong login. Great. All right, so I think we're good to go. Yeah, the testing SDK push should have been okay, essentially. But since it's not coming to my phone and it's also not sending a request to like the URL and all that stuff, then I think we move forward. We don't really need to keep track of all that stuff. All right, so now we have the SDK query situation, and we said that looking at this is the response, the request body that we're going to be doing. It's a post request. So, and maybe we've not done a post. Okay, we've done a post request with the URL that is passed in over here, which is the SDK push. I think that's it. Everything is good at this point. I think everything is fine. Unless maybe there's a misspelling of some sort, or, you know, there's definitely something that we've not done right. Right? But anyway, so given that we have our SDK query over here, we have the URL. We also need to get the access token and put it inside our request. So just do response is equal to HTTP with token, and then we'll come in here and just do this authenticate or this authorize, right? And once you do this authorize, I'm just going to come in here and just do post, and this post request takes in the URL, and the URL will pass in some data. High likelihood, by the way, just giving this as a probable situation. Maybe we need to pass in this as a bearer token, like this. Just maybe. Maybe we need to pass it in like that, but we'll test it out in a short while. We'll need to come in here and paste this entire request body for the M-Pesa Express query. We'll replace the curly brackets with square brackets. like so. Okay, then we replace this part over here. Okay, we just need to eliminate the spaces first and then come in and do that. And yeah, that's it. So you have the business shortcode, the password, the timestamps, and then the checkout request. But now the password is something completely different, because we'll need to get this password. And this password is supposed to be coming in from a generated security credential. So, and the reason why we say this is because if you look at the password over here, okay, base64 encode, the business shortcode, the passkey, and the timestamp. Okay, what's the passkey and what's the timestamp? Well, and then again, also on top of that, how is it supposed to be secure so that it just goes through without having to, you know, have to check all of that? There's a particular function that I'm really wary of. I'm just going to go to the docs over here and go to MPESA API certificates, okay? So you can see transaction status query API, reversal API, B2C, and B2B. These ones are quite important in the whole process, in that whole particular process when we're coming to querying and getting responses and things like that. And I think it's quite important that we just do it. So we click on this one to download the one for the sandbox, the sandbox certificate, okay? And we're going to paste it inside our, I'm going to paste it inside our public actually. So I'm just going to come in here, show in folder. I'm going to paste it inside our public. So I'm just going to come in here and open this. And this is our certificate over here. So I'll just come in and call it cert.cer. Now, in such a situation, when we are needing a certificate coming in from our you know, API over here, this is the one for production, and this one is the one for the what's this, the sandbox, okay? So it says that to generate your security credentials, MPESA authenticates a transaction by decrypting the security credentials, and then security credentials are generated by encrypting the base64 encoded initiator password with MPESA's public key. And you know what? This X509 certificate, the algorithm for generating security credentials is as follows. We have to write the unencrypted password into a byte array, encrypt the array with the MPESA's public key certificate using the RSA algorithm. It's embedded in PHP, so it's not really a problem. And then add the result to the encrypted string, and then convert the resulting encrypted byte array into the string using base64 encoding. And the resulting base64 encoded string is the security credential. So we're going to create a function over here called generate security credential, okay? And it's not really a complicated function. I think it's like 3 lines. So how do we go about this? So we'll come in here. After authorize, we'll come in here and just create a function called generate credentials. And we'll pass in, maybe say a password. All right. Once we pass in our password, what we're going to do here is we're going to first of all get our public key. So our public key is equal to, we have to get the contents of this particular item that we've already brought in. Okay, so we'll do file get contents. All right, and the file get contents, we'll go to the public path of the application, and then we'll get cert.cer, which is what we saved it as over here in public, cert.cer. Right, cert.cer. All right, so we get the contents of that first. Then we'll just do an open SSL public encrypt. Okay, so we have to encrypt it first using the password. So we'll come in here and just say take the password, all right, and then get the encrypted data. So the encrypted data in this situation will be from the public key, but I mean this public key over here. So right, so this public key that is coming in over here. Why is my stream lagging? My stream is lagging heavy. I don't know if you guys are experiencing the lag, but on my side it looks like it's throwing some errors. But anyway, we'll move on forward. Okay. Okay, we have a part over here for encrypted data, and then we also have the OpenSSL asymmetric key. And I think there was a local string variable which is already embedded here, and I'm not sure. Something of the sort, I don't know. Oh, but there's always some other there's also some other values that we need to pass in here. So we have the public key that is supposed to be passed in over here. So we'll use this public key. And then the last thing that we need to do is this one, the padding, which is OpenSSL PKCS1 padding, which is the default, and I think that's what we will definitely use. So just do it like this, essentially, because this is a local string that the local variable that is supposed to be the variable that is supposed to be generated from this OpenSSL public encrypt. So once we encrypt the data with the public key and the password, then the variable that comes out from this is this one over here, encrypted. And then, of course, now at the end of the day, we'll just come in here and just return the base 64 encoded. I think that's what they said that we should do. It says that we convert the resulting encrypted byte array into a string using the base 64 encoding. So that's essentially what we're supposed to do. So base 64 encode, okay? And then we'll come in here and just do the encrypted. So that's what we're passing in there. So this is our credentials coming in, and that's what we'll be using inside our query over here. So inside our query over here, the password itself is indeed what is supposed to be that generated security credential. And then when we pass in the generated security credential, what the supposed to pass in is not simply what you'd expect. So we'll come in and say this generate credentials, right? And the password here will be the same as the password that we passed in over here to base 64 encode. Okay, so essentially this is what our password should be. So I'm just going to come in here and paste it down here, and without the base 64 encode, and then I'll pass in the password right here. But then this timestamp also needs to be a variable over here. So timestamp is equal to now format, and we'll use ymdhis, which is fine. I think we're good. I think we're good at this point. I have a response, which is okay. And now we just need to return the response JSON, right? Yeah. Of course, timestamp needs to be changed also over here. And then we also need to change this part over here, the business shortcode. So this will be env MPESA shortcode. And then you can see the checkout request ID is what we're passing inside here. So we'll come in here, just do checkout request ID. I'll copy it here and paste it here. So that's in the checkout request ID. Okay. So given that we're in a situation where we have our API for the query, like if you look at the simulation itself, right? Let's fetch the APIs and then look at what we're supposed to put over here. This is retrieved from simulating a request. Okay. Once we retrieve it, we store it. And then we come in here and check if it's already done. Which is perfect. Then this is the response body. Okay. And this, yes, it's a post request. So this is the response body. This is supposed to be the body. This is what's supposed to be what we receive after we post. So if the service has been accepted successfully, fair. It's the same as what we get inside our, our simulate, which makes a lot of sense at this point. Now we have this spot for the merchant request ID over here. Okay. In a case where, like, let's say you've done the SDK push and like the system fails in between, so, but the checkout request has been saved, but you don't know what has happened, then that's essentially what this checkout, the query of this SDK push needs to be done. Yeah, that's it. So the next thing we'll probably do is check the status of. The next thing we'll probably do is check the status of the transaction that has been done. And in our APIs, that is over here, transaction status. But before we even do transaction status, I'm sure we'll have to do B2C before we do status. And then also doing the MPESA Ratiba account, B2C account top up. Yeah, and all that stuff. And then, of course, account balance. Because in such a situation, when you're creating an app that is going to be using M-Pesa as its main payment processor, you need to use all these different APIs that are required. But you get the gist of how to, set it up in such a manner that you'll be able to use all these different situations. Like, for instance, if we're looking at there's something that I have that's just clicked in my mind. There's something that's just clicked in my mind. Are we supposed to use this key like this? Possibility. Are we supposed to use that key like that? There's something that's just clicked in my mind, honestly. let's actually try it out. Okay, so we have our token there. Let's test it out. Make the payment. Nope. Ah, yes, it's supposed to be 254. Okay, then let's try this again. Let's try this one more time. And this time, let's actually check for a few things. All right. So now I'll say if response, and there's very many qualities that you can check. You'll check if the response is successful, and you can return the access token like so. And then if not, then you can throw a new exception. And this exception, I think I'll just put a stroke like this because it will just know exception. And it will have to have a message, of course, failed to authenticate with MPESA API. And whatever is thrown, it will be caught inside the, the other parts. We'll move to the SDK push at this point. And maybe wrap this inside a try catch. Paste that one here, and then throw new exception with the message with th get message. Yeah, I think that's how I'll work it out. Payment request successful. I mean, I don't understand. I don't need to fully understand it. Yes, but I don't understand why the whole situation is not working, because this is the perfect function. This function now is what we look at over here. This is the perfect function when it comes to integration with MPESA APIs. This inside Laravel is the perfect function. If we look at how it's implemented also inside our we'll go to simulate, and then we see how it's implemented inside our once we click on that and simulate that, we go to PHP, and then we can see these different items over here. Okay, business shortcode already set, password, timestamp, transaction type. Yeah, transaction type, amount, party A, party B, phone number, callback URL, okay, account reference, transaction description, set, all set. Unless there's something else I'm missing, everything looks very well set. If you look at Node.js, you can see we have all these other different ones. Business shortcode, password, timestamp, transaction type, amount. Everything is okay. Spelling wise, we're good. Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're all good. Which is so interesting to me, honestly. We said that we're going to have a quick overview, but this is taking too damn long, honestly. So let's finish all the functions so that we can see what else we need to actually implement. Okay. So there's this thing about, I mean, when you're talking about the C2B situation, when you talk about C2B, we're registering URLs, and where this applies is, well, it will tell us that this API works hand in hand with customer to business APIs and allows the receiving payment notifications to your pay bill. This API enables you to register the callback URLs via which you shall receive notifications for payments to your pay bill or till numbers. So it's just a matter of registration of URLs so that you can be able to receive the notifications. That's it. And to register those items or register those URLs, of course, you're just going to pass in certain URLs, but there should also be a place where you can manually register these URLs as well. So without even going anywhere else, I don't think we'll need to implement that. We'll need to implement this one. This one is for B2C. B2C API is an API used to make payments from a business to customers. So that's payouts generally, right? It's also known as bulk disbursements. My PC tongue is finishing me. So B2C API is used in several scenarios by businesses that require to either make salary payments, cashback payments, promotional payments, betting, payouts, winnings, financial institutions, withdrawal of funds, loan disbursements, etc. And each scenario has its unique characteristics, but all lie under the B2C API category, and below is the workflow. So we have the organization, we have the API itself, we have MPESA itself, and then we have the customer. There's very few things that are actually required, but I'm just going to implement this real quick. This is the request body, and it's a post request, I'm sure. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to come in here and just do B2C, right? So B2C payment, I'm going to call it that. So B2C payment, right, is a function that will, I'll declare it like this, function B2C payment. And then we'll come in here and pass in our URL first. Paste it there. Replace a sandbox over here with base URL. And that's our URL. Now what we're looking at is our response, which will be equal to HTTP with token. Of course, we have to do our token this authorize, and then we come down here and we'll just do our post, and our URL is passed in. and our data is also passed in. So we come in here and paste our data right here. I've just realized our biggest mistake. Biggest mistake. I've just realized it. I've just realized it right now. These curly brackets don't need to be there. This brackets don't need to be there. My goodness. Okay. Those brackets don't need to be there. These ones don't need to be there. And yeah, and I'll tell you why I realized that in a moment actually. But this is essentially how it's going to work. Okay. Let's make payment an expected token somewhere here. SDK push. This one is okay. Let's comment this out for now and make the payment. Payment request successful. Oh, there you go. There you go. It's come. That was the only thing. Curly brackets, extra square brackets. Sorry, extra square brackets. I don't understand why I did that in the first place. I think I was replacing the curly brackets when the body was being passed in, and I think that's where I went wrong. So I'll just call it public as well, public function. But I could just leave it like this, and it just does automatically public function. Okay, so with the B2C payment, we come in and copy our stuff over here, our request body. And then we look at what it is that we need to actually pass in from our request body. Okay. We get rid of these, and then everything that we have here. Okay, then we come in here, put the arrow, and I think that's about that. That's just about that, I think. The only thing here is that this needs to change. We need to put this here, put this here. Yeah. Okay, so security credential is the first one that I can see over here, all right? But we need our password, and our password is stemming in from here. Okay, so I'll come in here, paste this here. So you can see originator conversation ID. We also need a function to create the originator conversation ID, which is a unique ID that we will be creating. Okay, and for us to create that, I'm just going to take one off the top of my mind, honestly. So essentially, because we're using this for, let's say, my company, Vapor Technologies, right? I'm just going to come in here and our authorized function over here. I'm just going to come and create a public, let's call it function. And then we're going to call it generate originator conversation ID. Generate originator conversation ID. Like that. And it's going to be just a plain old function, like so. And what I'm just going to come in here and return is a string. All right. We'll start with Vapor. Then we put a hyphen. Okay. Then we'll do a string to upper. So it's string to uppercase. Okay. And we'll come inside here, and then we'll just do an str. We'll use str random. Don't replace and but random. Str random, maybe say 7 characters, maybe 8 characters. And then we concatenate it with a hyphen. And then we'll come in here and just do time, which is a function. And we'll close that off. And this one is supposed to be concatenated there. And yeah, I think that's it. I know I put time inside here. I should be putting it outside here. Like that. Yeah. So a string to upper and str random, and then we put the time. Time is like literally the timestamp, the current Unix timestamp. it's going to be unique. There's no way about that. There's no other way about it. Using the timestamp is very, very important. Okay, so now we have our originator conversation ID. So we can come in here and say this get originator conversation ID and just leave it like that. The initiator name doesn't matter. The security credential does matter. So what we're going to come in here and just do is this, and we'll say get credentials, pass in the password. And then we'll come into the command ID, which is business payment, which is fine. Then we'll come in here and just do amount. The party A is going to be our, our short code. So we'll just come in here and just do env and MPESA short code. Then party B, we are good. We just need the phone number. Okay. So this being the phone number, we'll just come in and just do phone. And then remarks are here, remarks. And then we have the queue timeout URL and the result URL, which are going to we're going to declare over here. So we have those two over here. So queue timeout URL, and the naming is going to be B2C timeout. We'll just call it timeout URL, and then we'll call this your result URL. Normally people will call it B2C result, which is okay also. I think I'll just call it this. I call this as well B2C result, B2C timeout. B2C timeout and B2C result, which is fine. And yeah, which is fine. And I think we're all good up till that point. We'll just come in here and call this B2C.results. Great. So we have those two URLs, which are going to be receiving all this. And by the way, we did test this using this part over here. I hope it's still exposed. I'm not sure if it is. It is still exposed. So we didn't test how the callback is going to come back. All right, so we need to do 25472855741. The amount is 1, the reference is NA, and then we're going to click on make payment. Once payment made is successful, we're going to have that notification right there. And I'm just going to put in my MPESA PIN for a shilling. And it's going to come back with an MPESA message from my side that it's sent, confirmed message, 1 shilling to Daraja Sandbox for account NA on so on and so forth. New MPESA balance is, and we move. So now when we come back to our part over here where we're having the, where's our logs? Our storage, logs, Laravel log. You can see indeed our, well, we're not using our local time. You can see over here it's 12:47, over here it says 9:46. So, but you can definitely see that this is a real request. If I look at the value of this, it matches the one that I've gotten on my MPESA message. TAD 3178FA7. 8837, yeah. So it works, and it works very well. So we're good to go. At this point, we're done with the SDK push, and it works very, very well. So in terms of collecting that data and actually storing it in the database, we'll work around that whenever we get that chance. But we now want to work on this B2C timeout and B2C result, so that we can be able to see what happens. So you can come in here and just change this message to B2C timeout. And then change this one also to B2C result. Yeah. So we have this queue timeout URL, of which we'll just come in here and just call it route. Okay. And then we'll come in here and this is the timeout, B2C timeout. Over here we'll come into result, we'll come and do route, and we'll do B2C results, like so. Then occasion, we'll come and use as well. So we can see the 3 variables that we need to put inside our importation over here, which is the phone number, which is and the amount, and the remarks. Yeah. And then after that, of course, we just return response in JSON format. It's pretty easy at that point. I think now everything is just fine. So now even in MPESA test, now we can actually say, we can actually concatenate this with, like, let's say, for example, the response code. So we'll come in here and just say response is equal to that. And then we'll come in here and just say response code, right? So response, given that it comes in JSON, then we can be able to access this response code like that. And we'll space this out here so that it gives that vibe. And now our expose is closed, so we need to actually expose this again. So we'll come in here and open this, close this, terminate it, and do herd share again. And then we'll copy that, we'll paste it inside our .env over here. So I get to realize that you actually don't need engine more, setting up Nginx and all that stuff. When you have herd, you have everything, okay? When you have this Laravel herd, you have every single thing that you actually need to get started with the Laravel application, even when you want to expose these applications for testing with the MPESA Daraja API, with PESA with anything really. So all these things will work. Now, how do we get a move on this at this point? Okay, I'm just going to come in here and open this MPESA test like that, and it works. So if we put it up over here that we want to pay, like, let's say maybe say 5 people and want to pay those salaries like that, we can do it like that. Right. So what we're going to do here is, aside from this card body, I want to do how do we simulate this B2C? I want to put a context, okay, where we have, like, maybe say users in a table and their salaries, but we'll put that later. We'll put that a bit later. Our SDK push works, and that's really good. We want to store that checkout request ID inside our database so that once we check the status of that particular transaction, we'll be able to get it from the checkout request ID or the status of that SDK push, if it's finished, if it's timed out, and so on and so forth. This is great. This is great. At least the APIs are working, and they're working quite well. You can see now we have our results body, and we also have our successful B2C result. We also have our timeout body. So this is our response body. This is what we're getting, our conversation ID, our originator conversation ID. So this conversation ID is generated inside. Then this is our originator conversation ID. Then we have our response code, response description. And then this is when there's an error, okay? Tells us, maybe say there's an invalid access token. This is invalid access token. Yeah, that's how it works. And then this is our results body. So this is for the timeout, and then this is for the successful B2C result. So we'll use all that in testing, really. In fact, we could actually do that right now in testing. So we'll go to our Insomnia. We've copied our body for the B2C results, okay? So we're just going to come in here and create a new HTTP request, post, HTTPS, MPESA API .test slash B2C, it's actually API slash B2C result. And then inside our body over here, we'll just put JSON and then paste the body right there. If we click on send, successfully logged, okay? And we go to our, we'll go to our logs over here, and you can see our B2C result in its full glory right here. So this is essentially how it's supposed to log it. We could definitely use, you know, a table so that we can be able to make it visible inside, like maybe say our UI over here, which we will do eventually. Yeah, I think that's something that we can be able to do. So let me just close this all, because I feel like I've cluttered all these things together. But let's finish setting up the APIs. We can see the APIs are all almost fully done. We have the B2C payment, it's done. How do we introduce, well, B2C is done. How do we introduce transaction status? What does transaction status entail? Well, it's a post request again. Most of our financial situations here are all post requests. In fact, we could go ahead and even just like copy all this, right? Because it's almost the same. We just need to come in here and do transaction status. And then over here, we'll paste our body, our request body, which entails the initiator, all these different things. I'll paste it here. Remove the curly brackets. And then we start debunking where we are with this by putting it like that. Yeah, formatting it like that. We have the initiator, we have the security credential, which is now, we have to get the security credential. So it's coming in, just do this, get credentials, and then password. Okay, the password is already here. We have the command ID, we have the transaction ID. Okay, so transaction ID, we have to just take the, and it's spaced out. I don't think it should be spaced out. Let's actually simulate this. Let's actually simulate this. Identifier type, MSIDSN. Yeah, that's what I thought. They shouldn't be spaced like that. Command ID, transaction ID, they shouldn't be spaced like that. So we'll do that. Command ID, transaction ID, originator conversation ID, Already this is maybe say OCID. Then party A, which is also the same as our env MPESA shortcode. So we'll come in here, just do transaction ID. Over here we'll do originator conversation ID. And with a small o, just to maintain the camel case. And then we'll have the identifier type is 4, and I don't know what 4 means. So identifier type will come in here. 4 is the organization shortcode. I don't know what others we have. But anyway, we'll just keep it as identifier type is 4. And then result URL will come in here and just do transaction result. Okay, so route transaction or status result, and then we'll do status timeout. Right, and then we have remarks and occasion, which is fine. Even remarks and occasion over here should just be okay. I think it's fine. That's okay. So we don't even need to pass in remarks. We just need to pass in the phone and amount. That's it. So over here we have transaction ID and originator conversation ID. We don't have a phone, we don't have amount, we don't have anything else. So we have originator conversation ID and transaction ID. Those are the two things that we're going to pass in at this point. And yeah, we're just going to leave it like that. I think that's okay. We'll start with transaction, then originator. So that function is fine, and I think we can even move on forward. We'll solve account balance. I think this one is really important. Okay, because invalid party A. Yeah, there we go. So this is another post request and just returns that the service request has been accepted. All we just need to do now is find a way to log in the balance that we get from the results. So this is the response body. And then now this is the result body. And when we get the result body for this, actually before we even proceed on, we didn't create these routes, status result and status timeout. We need to come into our API and we'll just copy this and paste it here, status. And then we'll do status timeout, status results. And this one status, we'll use it here as well. And I'll just comment this out. Transaction status routes. These ones are B2C routes. Okay. Just for denoting purposes. Then we have also SDK routes, MPESA Express. And that's it. That's actually all that needs to be done. Yeah. But there's so many APIs, honestly. There's so many. We have account balance now. We can use this one for account balance. Before we even proceed on, I don't know why I keep on forgetting. I didn't copy the URL for this one. Right? MPESA transaction status v1 query. I didn't copy this one and put it inside here. MPESA service. So you'll find that we're still using this one here instead of using this one. So that's our transaction status. That's how it's supposed to be. This is B2C. This is our SDK query, SDK push, and yeah, all that is working now. Okay. Account balance. It's pretty straightforward, honestly. Public function, account balance. And then our URL is equal to that, but now we're going to wrap it inside our quotes, and then we're going to replace this with base URL. This base URL, and we'll store that. We also have now our request body, which is over here. So we'll just come in here and copy this request body. Come in here and just say response is equal to HTTP with token disauthorize. And then we'll come in here and say post. We'll do that here. And we'll pass in the URL. And then we'll pass in the data, which is whatever is in this body. Get rid of the curly brackets. And then get rid of the colons that are right there. Input the arrow. So now that it's associative. And this one here is base URL, disauthorize. I think we're good. Then we put the comma, the semicolon there. Return the response in JSON format. Now, again, looking at this, I need to get this the timestamp and the password over here. Timestamp and the password out there. There's the MPESA shortcode, MPESA passkey, and the timestamp. We have our security credential, which is this get credentials password, which is this password here. And there's a command ID. There's party A, which is the shortcode, env MPESA shortcode. Identifier type remains okay. Remarks remain okay. And then we have the timeout URL for the account balance. So we'll come in here and just do route balance dot timeout. We have the balance timeout, and then we also have balance result. That's how we work this out generally. So of course the shortcode, we already have it. Identifier type is 4 to mean that this is a till number and all that stuff. We can't do it for a phone number. I don't think we can, but I guess we can. Maybe somebody can correct me in the comments. Maybe later, maybe now. I don't know. And then we move on forward. Let's look at how we can implement our Ratiba. I think that's the next thing that needs to be done. This one here, right? The MPESA Ratiba. But now also B2C account top up is also quite crucial. Yeah. Allows you to load funds to a B2C shortcode directly for disbursement. We won't use that right now. The one that we'll use probably here is this one for the subscriptions, the MPESA Ratiba. So over here, we have this function over here. And then we have the public function. And then we'll say create standing order, or yeah, you can call it create standing order. Create standing order. So with this standing order, we can be able to get the request body as well. So now we have the URL in our clipboard. The URL is here. Just need to wrap it there and then put this base URL here. And that is our URL. And then we'll come in here and just do response is equal to HTTP, and this is a, I believe, yeah. So HTTP with token, this authorize, and then we'll come in and do post, and given that's a post request, we have the URL, and then we have the data. And now we can paste the data that we copied over here. So we have the standing order name, the start date, the end date, the business shortcode, transaction type, receiver, party, identifier, the amount, the party A, callback URL, account reference, transaction description, and then the frequency. Get rid of this, get rid of that, and then replace these with arrows. Then of course close that off. Now the standing order name, we can do the name. Can say order name. The start date should be, well, we'll take the date, right? And then we'll just pass it. So we'll just come say carbon, now parse, then we pass in the date, okay, and then we format, and now you can see that we have the Y, we have the M, and then we have the D. So we come here and we say YMD, like that. So this one should be start date, and this next one should be end date. Then we have the business shortcode, of which, of course, it's our ENV Then we come and take the MPESA short code. Okay. Then the transaction type, standing order, customer pay bill. This remains the same. Then we have the amount. Okay. Then party A is the phone number. Okay. Then we have the callback URL, which is now going to be the Ratiba callback route. Ratiba callback. And then we have the account reference. The account reference now will just come in here and just call ref. And then this one also will call ref. Then frequency. Now frequency is also dependent on what? So you can see we have these values over here. These are one-off payment. We have daily payments. We have weekly payments, monthly payments, bi-monthly, quarterly, half year, and then yearly. Okay. So all this will come in from the frequency. Yeah, like that. So now we have order name, start date, end date, amount, phone, reference, and then frequency. So those are 7, I think. Have I counted 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we'll start by putting them here. So we'll have the order name. We have the start date. We have the end date. We have the amount. We have the phone. We have the reference. And then we have the order frequency. And that's how it works. So now we have our response body. This is what comes in as our response body. Request accepted for processing and things like that. And then this is our result. All right. So this is our callback response, and this is how the results happen. So now there are two things that we've not done. We've not done this balance timeout, balance result, and then we've also not done Ratiba callback. So we'll need to come into our routes. And essentially, I think I'll just have to, like, okay, we have status timeout, then we have status result. I think we're good with that. So I'm just going to come in here and just do account balance routes. And then over here we have balance timeout. I think we'll just come in here and just replace it like this. So balance, 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 and balance. And I needed this to be capital B, capital B. Save that, and I think we're good with that one. And then Ratiba callback, I think I'll just copy the SDK callback route over here. So I'll come in and say MPESA Ratiba routes. And we'll come in here and call Ratiba callback. Ratiba callback. Like that. So when it comes to routes, I think we're good to go with that. And yeah. And we have to definitely have to create them. Mark my words, have to create them inside this API routes. Okay. Yeah, and essentially now we'll know how to deal with it. This is just for logging in. This is the shortcut, and knowing how to log them in first before we can also go ahead and get them to work for us by putting them in like these situations and all that stuff. So this is how essentially we have our Ratiba routes. We have our account balance routes. We have our transaction status routes, B2C routes, and then we have our SDK routes, the MPESA Express routes. So these are just for callbacks. So callbacks, this is the timeout, the results, the result URLs, the status timeout, status result URL, and then this is the balance for balances, the account balance, and then this is for Atiba. So we are done with that one. Now we move on to trying to find a way to simulate all these different transactions. And I think it's about time now we take another break. And we'll probably come back in like about another 10 minutes, give or take. All right, so now we're 3 hours in. Let's take another break, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you guys shortly. And we're back. Ladies and gentlemen. Hoping to shed light on the situation now. Okay, so we need to find a way to store all these different situations, right? We have our response bodies for each and every one of these APIs. We have response bodies for simulate, result bodies for this simulate situation, okay? Which is here. So this is for the SDK push. I'll just put it over here, inside here. This is our B2C result, and this one is our SDK callback. Okay, so inside our SDK, I'll just rename this. And rename this as well. This one is our B2C results. Okay, so inside our SDK callback, we have our callback metadata inside our body, all right? So we go into body, then we go to SDK callback, and then from there we have our callback metadata, but we have to check our result code first, which is, you know, how we are going to go. So what I want to test is when I go back to my routes inside the API over here, like let's say for example in our SDK callback, right? What we have here is we're logging our info, our request all, right? What if we come in here and just say response is equal to request all? And then upon saying that, we can come in here and now say that you want to log our response. And then we come and say our response body, and then inside our body we have our SDK callback. SDK callback. Okay, so body is capital, SDK callback. Then we have merchant request ID. We also have checkout request ID, and then we also have result code, result description, and callback metadata. So we'll come in here and say callback metadata right now, like this. And that's what we'll use. Okay, so now once we do this, when we click on send, it says successfully logged. If we come back to our log info, we can see our metadata over here, right? And then we have the amount, we have the receipt number, we have the transaction date, and we have the phone number. Okay, so we know that 0 is the amount. We know that 1 is the other amount, is the receipt number. Number 2 is the transaction date, and then number 3 is the phone number. All right. So if we come in here and just did this same function right now, And we decided that inside our MPESA service, or rather in our API, we wanted to get you know, maybe say 1 and value. Because it's a value, but in capital letters. So we come in here, we hit send. And of course, now, of course, we have our undefined array key right there. And the reason why we have this undefined array key right there is because, of course, now once we come into item, we have to come into item first. So you have to come into item first. Now we try. Successfully logged. And now we can see inside our Laravel logs, we have our receipt number. So this is definitely storable inside, like maybe say our database or something like that, right? So we would come in and say, maybe say an SDK results table, right? We'll come in here and just maybe say we store our SDK results table or our payment results table. Okay, something like that. And then try as much as we can to link them together. So we'll come in here and just do our PHP artisan or PA make model, and then we'll say SDK results. And what we want to store inside our SDK result is this entire command, using first the receipt number, the transaction date, the phone number, and also when we look at our table over here, we want to also store the checkout request ID and maybe even the merchant request ID. Maybe that's something that we also want to store. So merchant request ID, checkout request ID, and then the name, the value of this amount, the receipt number, the transaction date, and the phone number, which is fine. And this transaction date, you can see it's year, month, date, and then you see the hour, the minute, and the seconds. So that's how we will store it. So it's at date time. So transaction date is date time. So we've created this model, and we need to have created the migration as well. So I don't understand why I created the model alone. I'm just going to go to models, delete this, and then come in here and run this again. So now we've created the model, and we've also created the migration. So inside the migration, which is over here, we'll start by doing its ID, then we'll come in here and just do merchant request ID, which is a string from what I'm seeing. And we'll come in just to merchant request ID. And then we'll do the checkout request ID. And these ones will start with small. So merchant request ID. Then we'll do checkout. And then we'll come in to do the amount, the receipt number, the transaction date, and the phone number, which is fine. But now there's situations where this can also throw out an error inside our SDK callbacks, right? So like this is the result body. All right, and then this is an unsuccessful result. Okay. There's situations where this is an unsuccessful result. We'll also have to do something about that, because callback metadata is not there in this situation. So we'll need to also check the result code and see what happens. So we have the merchant request ID, the checkout request ID, the let's say the amount, we set the amount, which is, of course, we'll wrap it inside there, we'll wrap it inside there. This one should be a decimal. And maybe 82 is okay. Damn, I'm tired. So what else? We have the amount, we have the receipt number. So table string MPESA receipt number. And another string over here, which is the the phone number. MPESA receipt number, phone number, and then the transaction date, which is at date time. So it's a date time, the column name is transaction date. Boom. Then when we come to our API and we want to log all those different values, let's say, for example, we want to come and create our, STK results is equal to new STK result. Bring it in from the models. And then now we come and start with the different STK results over here. So we have the merchant request ID, the checkout request ID, the amount, and all that stuff. So STK results. Then we start with merchant request ID. I'm just going to put this to the side. And then merchant request ID is equal to then we come in here and take this format again. And then again, because there's a possibility where this callback metadata is not given because of error, we'll come in here and just do amount and make it nullable. Make this nullable, make this nullable, make this nullable. Okay. We'll just need the merchant request ID and the checkout request ID, which is fine. So now when you come in here and look at body STK callback, the only thing we're getting here is the merchant request ID. And then we close that chapter. Then we'll come in here, do checkout request ID. Wait, checkout with the capital C, checkout. And then, yeah, now we do an if statement at this point here. We're coming in and say if, then we'll probably paste that condition that we brought in at this particular point here. So this one, but then now at this point, we'll come in here and just do response body STK callback metadata. If it's there, then we'll just come in here and say data is equal to this part over here, this response body, all that stuff. Okay. I will save it like that. Now we'll come in here and just do STK results is equal STK results amount is equal to I will come in here and just put the data, and then we'll come and take the first column, which is item. Actually, item is going to be there regardless, right? So I'll just come in here and put item right there, and then we'll come and say the amount is 1 value, not 1 value, but 0 value. Then the next one is going to be the MPESA receipt number. This one will be number 1 value. And then number 2 value, which is the transaction date. We'll have to carbon parse it and then put it to datetime string. So carbon parse, this is data 2, so you see 1 0 1 2, right? So we'll carbon parse this, and then we'll say what, to date time string, which is a function. Now this carbon needs to be imported from this class, which is okay. And then this one is transaction date, which you put it as a small t inside the database, right? And then now we have the phone number, which is now going to be this one, but then this is 3 at this point. Okay, and then we'll stop logging this response, and then we'll just come in here and say successfully logged. And because this database is already ready on its own, so I'm just going to do PA migrate, or PAM, just like that. Great, and then once this is good to go, I think if I just came in here and just just hit send, we'll be able to display this inside our MPESA.test. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to my MPESA test before anything else. I'll come in here, app Livewire MPESA test, and then I'll come in here and just do SDK results is equal to SDK result all, and then I want to display it in a table. So in order for us to display this in a table, I'm just going to come in here, remove the entire card, do it in a dot row, column MD8 dot column 12, paste it back in, and then outside this column MD8 we'll do a column MD4 dot column 12, and here we'll put our table. We'll do a card first, and then we'll do a card body. Inside the card body we'll do a table, and then we'll do table responsive. We won't do table primary, then we'll just do ID, then we'll do the other things, right? So phone number, amount, transaction code. And then also after transaction code, we'll also have the other two, which is the merchant request. We'll have the checkout request ID, phone number, amount, and transaction code. That's how we'll go about this. Right, and then of course 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have six columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll just come in here and just do a for each loop. So for each, and then we'll say SDK results as a result. We'll come in here, we put in our result ID. We'll come and do our results. Over here, results, merchant, request ID, like that. In fact, I think I'll delete this one and then copy this one. This one does just now be checkout. And then the next one will be phone number. Amount and transaction code. So MPESA transaction receipt. It's supposed to be MPESA receipt what? MPESA. It's supposed to be MPESA receipt number. And then this transaction date. Yeah, slip it like that. Right. So now let's try it out. We'll have this saved inside our API routes. So we'll come in here into our API routes. Then once we've done that, we'll just come in here and just do SDK results save. And yeah. Now let's try it out. If we come in here and just click on send, successfully logged. And if we look at our MPESA tests, we should be able to find something in our database. Yeah, there we go. So you have the merchant request, the checkout request ID, the phone number, the amount and transaction code, and all that stuff. Phone number is actually not coming through, so I wonder why. Because we have data3 value. And if we look at our logs, we have these ones, right? So array 3, we have phone number and the value. So we need this value to come into our data. But I don't know why it's not storing it as a string, but maybe having a look at our database will also help. Amount, phone number stored, transaction date was stored. And yeah, I think that's fair. One other thing that I also need to check is inside our .env, we need to change this UTC from UTC to Africa /Nairobi. because that's my local time zone. Great. So that's pretty much it. And maybe the reason why I'm not getting the phone number and even this container maybe needs to go. Yeah, this needs to be column MD8. Oops. Yeah. And then the reason why we're not getting the phone number is because I put it like this. Phone number now. Yeah. Wow. And this one has been tough indeed, and now we know how to store it inside our transaction code, and then we have a transaction date. And then also again, because of how we want to parse this, we'll just do carbon/carbon parse, and then we format to give us a string of a date. So I'll do JSFY then we'll do H:I:/SA. So small h, small I, small s, and then A at the end. So you can see 6th April 2004, 12:48 p.m. Even this 12:48, I think I'll just put it like hours and minutes. So it's just 12:48 p.m. And perhaps we also need to do it like this. Maybe it just needs to be a column MD4 here and then a column MD8 here. Yeah, that's fair. That's much fairer. So what if, now that we have our item over here, and I hope it's still exposed, it's not, so we need to expose it again. Herd share. Oh, and one last thing also that we need to do here is our listeners. So this listeners always, okay, let me just do it first and then I'll tell you what happens there. So protected listeners, all right, we'll just say done, and then we'll also call render. All right, so what done does, what these listeners do, this is what is listened to, the event that is listened to, and then this is the function that takes place inside this particular system. So if this dispatch runs this, calls this what's this event called done, then it will render, and when it renders the SDK results right there. Okay, so when I do, like, let's say for example, now like let's say for example, if I come in here and do phone number, if there's no phone number, I'll just do failed. Like that. And now once I've done that, I think now we can actually test this. So I've exposed this, and I can just put it inside my .env file. Where's my .env file? I can't even find it. I think my brain has started. Yeah. All right. So now we can move on forward with this new link. And now we can start trying it out. So we can come in here and do 254728557412. And the amount is 1 shilling. The reference there will make the payment. The payment request has been done successfully, I think. Yeah. Then it comes to my stuff. I do the MPESA pin, send it. It has sent. Now if I reset this, it should come. And the reason for it not coming, I don't understand. Well, let's try it again now this time. 254728557412. We'll do the amount is 1. The reference is NA. Make the payment. Payment is successful. This time we'll cancel. And when we cancel, let's see what logs it will send to our system. Well, no logs just yet. But it definitely should send a log. Like, it should send a log like this one. Like, if I come in here and just do a send, and it's successfully logged, then fair. And we have this, right? But it's not given us anything else. And when it logs, and when that item logs, it definitely comes back over here. So that's how we would want to store this, but looks like the transaction is not coming back to the system, it seems. But regardless, you see, this is how I'd want to deal with it. You can see the merchant request ID, the checkout request ID. We'll take this checkout request ID also and use it for checking the transaction status, things like that. And we could create another form just like this SDK push just to do that. So that's how generally these things actually work. And I'm going to actually leave it like that. We'll be implementing it along the lines. I'm just going to leave it there. We'll be implementing it as we move on because there's a lot more complex things rather than just doing the SDK push into the phone and receiving it and actually receiving the responses and the results. There's a lot more complex things that are going to be happening here. So that's how I want to leave it. I think I don't think I have another one that has SDK callback. That's why, okay, yeah. So this is how I want to leave it right now, ladies and gentlemen. I've created, and just to like go back on what it is that I created, the major thing that I created is how to read and understand the APIs that are sent towards you. I've created a class over here called MPESA service, and this MPESA service is what is usually used to now create like everything that is required. So like the authorization function, you can see how simple it was. You just used with basic auth, did the MPESA consumer key as the username, and the password was the MPESA consumer secret, and you get the URL. So it's a get request in this one. So you just do get URL. So that's pretty much it. And essentially this base URL could have just come in like this. Yeah, could essentially have just come in like that. It still works. Then we did this, generating the originator conversation ID. That one was later. That one was after we started the B2C and the getting the query as well. So and then also the generating of the credentials. So there's this public function SDK push, right? Which is where we started. This is one of the simplest of the functions, but yet again the most powerful. When we do the SDK push, it sends a request to the phone where you have your M-Pesa. As long as you set up the phone, and you set up the phone in the in the 2547 format, right? You start with the country code and then you end with the phone number itself. Then we have the amount, and then of course the reference, which is like in most situations is not applicable. We have this as a post request. So, and then we also have our body right there, which is already been predefined for us in our situation, in our APIs. Then we have the SDK query, which is just to query the status of this particular SDK push. We have the B2C payment. B2C payment is like, let's say, for example, you want to pay salaries. If you want to pay salaries, the only thing that you're probably going to use is just the phone number and the amount to which you're going to be sending these salaries to. Because these are usually sent, B2C payments are usually done from the till numbers and the short codes and all those different things. So you'll find that that's all that is required. And you'll find that even this B2C payment is a lot less structured than this one over here, this SDK push. The only thing that is extra within the SDK push that will probably require is the reference, which is fine. I don't really refute anything to do with the reference right there. Then we have the B2C payment, we have the transaction status, and then we also have the account balance and the standing order creation. All these things we'll explore in due time whenever it is that we're creating some of our applications. We'll be creating an e-commerce application, we'll be creating a SaaS using Livewire and MPESA for collecting payments. We'll be creating all these different things with varying, with varying functionalities. Maybe even a property management system, inventory management system. We'll be creating all these different things using this MPESA API. So stay tuned. Those guys who are still in tune, stay tuned. We'll be creating all these things in the other live streams to come. Hopefully we'll be able to stream every single day. And if you guys want to definitely catch these streams, please do indeed hit that subscribe button and toss me a like while you're at it. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next stream to come. So this is me closing out. This has been Steve Nyanumba with Nyanumba Codes. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So take care and God bless as always.